Welcome back. You're watching WION The World is One, and you're watching World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar. Let's start with the headlines. Syrian war monitor says rebels have seized control of Aleppo airport and the strategic town in Idlib and Hama provinces as President Bashar al-Assad vows to defeat all terrorists and their backers. Violent clashes break out outside Georgia's parliament between police and demonstrators on third night of protests against government's decision to delay European Union membership talks. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump picks former aide Kash Patel to lead the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Donald Trump warns BRICS nations against creating new currency for replacing the U.S. dollar, threatens bloc with 100% tariffs. Heavy rains, strong winds lash India's Tamil Nadu state as cyclone Fengal makes landfall. Flight operations resume at Chennai International Airport. And the strongest indication yet that Pakistan will accept a hybrid model for the Champions Trophy, PCB chief Mohsin Naqvi says that he is ready to take any step that will ensure the smooth conduct of the tournament. And we start with news from West Asia. Syrian rebels have seized large parts of Aleppo, the country's second largest city, and the city which was under President Bashar al-Assad's control since 2016 and is now largely held by opposition fighters. The rebel forces led by the jihadist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham have captured Aleppo's airport and surrounding towns. And according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, the latest offensive has claimed over 320 lives, including at least 44 civilians. Residents across the city have reported chaos as the conflict escalates, with the rebels tightening their grip. The situation has become increasingly precarious for the civilians. The rebels have imposed a 24-hour curfew starting at 5 p.m. local time on Saturday to secure and protect the civilians. President Bashar al-Assad has vowed to defend Syria's stability, promising to eliminate the rebels with the support of his allies, including Russia and Iran. He assured that the government will not allow the insurgents to claim victory in Aleppo. The conflict in Syria, which began in 2011 following pro-democracy protests, has caused a massive loss of life and displacement. While fighting had largely subsided since a ceasefire agreement in 2020, the recent rebel offensive has reignited the war. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani told Syrian President on Saturday that his country's security is key to the stability of the entire region. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi will visit Damascus on Sunday to discuss the rebel offensive. The foreign ministers of Russia and Iran have also expressed deep concern at the escalating hostilities in Syria. Now, staying in West Asia, thousands of protesters rallied in Tel Aviv demanding the release of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. And this comes as the Israeli military continues to pound alleged Hamas targets in central Gaza. Now, on Saturday, the Hamas released a video showing an Israeli-American hostage.
Dear President Trump, my name is Idan Alexander. I am an American Israeli citizen currently being held captive in the Gaza Strip. As an American, I've always believed in the power of the United States, and now I'm sending my message. Please, use your influence and the full power of the United States to negotiate for our freedom. Every day here feels like an eternity, and the pain from inside grows from day to day.
Now, following the release of the video, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with the family of Alexander. He said that the conditions are right for a hostage deal following a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah.
לפני כשעה התקשר אליי ראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו. חיזק אותי והבטיח לי שעכשיו, אחרי שיש הסדרה בלבנון, בשלו התנאים לשחרר אתכם ולהחזיר אתכם הביתה.
The United States put out a statement saying that the video is a crucial reminder of Hamas's terror against multiple countries. It also added that President Biden and the U.S. will continue their efforts to ensure the release of American citizens through diplomacy and imposing sanctions on Hamas. Meanwhile, several Israeli strikes pounded the eastern region of Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. On Saturday, international relief and aid organization Save the Children said that one of their workers were killed in an Israeli airstrike on Gaza's Khan Yunis. The charity agency condemned the attack while demanding a probe. Furthermore, at least 5 people were killed in an Israeli airstrike in southern Gaza. Now, according to reports, 3 of the victims are aid workers that are part of U.S. relief agency World Central Kitchen. And following the attack, the aid agency suspended its relief operations on the Gaza Strip. The IDF said that it targeted a militant connected to the Hamas-led attacks back in October 7, 2023. Now, in response, the World Central Kitchen said that it had no knowledge of any of its aid workers in the vehicle having ties to the October 7 attacks. Meanwhile, the Israeli Defense Forces said that a 20-year-old staff sergeant was killed in combat in northern Gaza. Now, moving to the northern front, normalcy slowly returned to the Lebanon's southern city of Tyre as several businesses reopened following a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. Several business owners were seen rebuilding their shops, while thousands of Lebanese people displaced during the conflict returned to their homes. Now, meanwhile, Tyre's port reopened as several fishermen were seen fishing close to the shore. Though a ceasefire was reached between Israel and Lebanon Hezbollah, now fishermen continue to avoid sailing, fearing that they might come under an Israeli attack. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has nominated loyalist Kash Patel as director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, he will replace Christopher Wray, who was appointed by Trump in 2017, but quickly fell out of favor with the president and his allies. Now, Kash Patel, the child of an Indian immigrants and a former public defender, spent several years as a Justice Department prosecutor. He caught Trump's administration's attention when he served as a senior counsel for a U.S. House panel, where he spearheaded the investigation into alleged Russian influence during the 2016 presidential election. During Trump's first term, Patel advised the director of national intelligence and later became the chief of staff to the Secretary of Defense. Patel has advocated for significantly reducing the FBI's footprint. That is a stark contrast to the stance of previous directors who sought to expand resources for the agency. Now, he has previously called for stripping the FBI of its intelligence gathering role and even proposed shutting down the FBI's Washington headquarters and reopening it as a museum of the deep state. Patel is of Gujarati ancestry and has said that his parents grew up in East Africa. His father reportedly fled to the U.S. in the 1970s from Uganda, which was ruled by Idi Amin at that time. Patel was raised as a Hindu and has said that he has always had a very deep connection with India. Patel has often railed against the so-called deep state and written a book called The Government Gangsters, the Deep State, the Truth and the Battle for Our Democracy. Now, he has also published 2 children's books, and one of the titles is The Plot Against the King. It features a villain, Hillary Clinton, trying to depose King Donald, who is aided by a wizard called Kash, the distinguished discoverer. Moving on to other global news now, thousands of pro-EU Georgians have staged protests on 3 consecutive nights in the capital, Tbilisi, and 107 people have been arrested in the protests outside the parliament building. The protests were sparked by the government's decision to delay talks on European Union membership. The Black Sea nation has been rocked by turmoil since the ruling Georgian Dream Party claimed victory in the 26th October parliamentary election. The pro-EU opposition is calling the election fraudulent. Now, earlier, over 100 diplomats and civil servants signed an open letter accusing the government of not aligning with Georgia's strategic interest.
Well, it was a violence, ordinary violence that you can see in Russia, Belarus, or in any authoritarian state. It's just police abusing. It's not just me, but the journalists were beaten. There are live footages of journalists being just attacked by the special forces. So it's something that we are already, unfortunately, we know how it happens here, but it will never stop us.
The protests that have led to overnight clashes on the streets of Tbilisi happened soon after Prime Minister announced on November 28 that Georgia will halt accession talks with EU and will refuse any EU budget grants until the end of 2028.
მივიღეთ გადაწყვეტილება 2028 წლის ბოლომდე დღის რიგში არ დავაყენოთ ევროკავშირთან მოლაპარაკებების გახსნის საკითხი. ასევე 2028 წლის ბოლომდე უარს ვამბობთ ყოველგვარ საბიუჯეტო გრანტზე ევროკავშირის მხრიდან. 2028 წლის ბოლო არის ის დრო, როდესაც საქართველო იქნება ეკონომიკური თვალსაზრისით სათანადოდ მომზადებული, რათა გახსნას მოლაპარაკებები 2030 წელს ევროკავშირში გასაწევრიანებლად.
Georgian police fired water cannons and tear gas on protesters as mass people tried to break into parliament. The country's interior ministry said 32 police officers were injured and 43 protesters were also detained on Thursday. The Georgian president has expressed solidarity with the protesters rallying against the government's decision to delay EU membership talks amid a post-election crisis.
თქვენს გვერდით ვარ და ჩვენ ვართ ყველანი ერთად, სანამ საქართველო არ მიაღწევს თავის მიზანს, დაუბრუნდეს თავის ევროპულ გზას, მიაღწიოს ახალ არჩევნებს და მიაღწიოს იმას, რომ თავისი მომავალი იყოს ერთხელ და სამუდამოდ დაცული.
Georgia's relations with the EU have deteriorated sharply in recent months, as Brussels alleged that the government had resorted to authoritarian measures and adopted pro-Russian stance. Meanwhile, France has expressed concerns and urged Georgia to respect the rights of the protesters and said it backs the country's European aspirations that must not be betrayed. With winter setting in, many countries across the world are experiencing extreme dip in temperatures. The snowfall severity has increased this time, with climate change contributing to the extreme weather. A major cold wave has swept a large swathe of North China and parts of the country's eastern region since Sunday. Many cities have reported snow or rain with temperature drop. It is the first major cold wave to many of these regions. China has a 3-tier color-coded weather warning system for cold waves, with orange representing the most severe weather, followed by yellow and blue. Now, similarly, South Korea's capital, Seoul, is experiencing bad weather, snarling traffic, knocking out power and grounding hundreds of flights. Authorities are predicting more snow in the coming days. The winter snowfall was the third heaviest in Seoul since records began in 1907, the Yonhap news agency said, citing data from the city. Now, North Korea also received fresh snowfall, but later than usual. While the first snowfall in Pyongyang typically occurs in early November, this year's snow came quite late and was relatively heavy, and this is according to experts. In Ukraine, over 1 million Ukrainians were without power in freezing cold temperatures after Russia launched a barrage of almost 200 cruise missiles and drones at energy sites across the war-torn country. Now, Ukraine is bracing for what could be its toughest winter of almost 3-year war as Moscow steps up its aerial bombardment and its troops advance on the front lines in the east. Now, moving to India. Many places in the higher reaches of Kashmir experienced fresh snowfall under the influence of western disturbance. Fresh snowfall was recorded in many places, including the tourist towns in Kashmir on Saturday, while night temperatures settled above freezing point at several locations. Well, they say it takes a village to raise a child, but in today's world, it also takes a solid bank account. Now, across Indonesia, a growing number of couples are choosing to delay parenthood, and the reasons are as complex as they are universal. That are costs, careers, and pressures in a changing world. Recent studies show that Indonesia's birth rate has been on a steady decline, falling from 2.3 children per woman in 2010 to 2.1 in recent years. Many cite rising costs of living and the challenges of balancing work and family life as major factors. With housing, education, and healthcare costs climbing, building a strong financial foundation has become a priority before taking the leap into parenthood. In many cases, social pressure to have children remains strong, but younger generations are redefining priorities. A 2023 survey found that over 60% of Indonesian couples plan to delay having children until they feel more financially secure. And this trend is pushing the government to address the need of young families. Proposals to improve parental leave, expand childcare subsidies, and promote flexible work arrangements are increasingly being discussed as possible solutions. But the challenge is still immense. PCB chief Mohsin Naqvi has said a final decision for the Champions Trophy will be taken on basis of what is best for cricket. It strongly suggests that the PCB is open to a hybrid model for the tournament, which is a complete shift from its earlier stance. An ICC meeting was adjourned on Friday, which was supposed to decide the fate of the event. And talks and discussions are ongoing between the PCB and the BCCI, as well as the ICC. PCB chief Mohsin Naqvi, who is also the Interior Minister of Pakistan, had earlier said that a hybrid model will be unacceptable. However, Naqvi is currently in Dubai and is holding discussions with UAE cricket officials, reportedly on the possibility of a hybrid model. Naqvi's latest comments are a far cry from the hardline approach the PCB had adopted earlier. Here's exactly what he said. The only focus is on a victory for cricket. That's the most important thing. Even if it is a new formula for the tournament, it will be equal for everyone. At the end of the day, we want cricket to win, and Pakistan's respect should be kept intact. Now remember, India has made its stand clear that the team will not travel to Pakistan for the tournament. Although Naqvi did not categorically say that a consensus has been reached, he stated that whatever solution is agreed upon, it will have significance for future tournaments as well, which means that the agreement will not just be for the 2025 Champions Trophy. It now appears that the hybrid model has emerged as the preferred compromise, potentially easing tensions and ensuring the Champions Trophy proceeds without disruption. But how exactly will this hybrid model work? Well, in this situation, Pakistan will retain hosting rights, but India's matches, as well as the semi-finals and final, will be held in the UAE if India qualifies. However, if India does not qualify for the semi-final, then the knockout matches will take place in Pakistan. Remember, a hybrid model was also adopted for the 2023 Asia Cup, which was played partly in Sri Lanka after India refused to travel to Pakistan. However, Pakistan did travel for the 2023 ODI World Cup, which was held entirely in India. A pair of ruby slippers which were worn by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz is on the auction block nearly 2 decades after the thief stole this iconic shoe. Now, Heritage Auctions received the sequin and bead bedazzled slippers from Michael Shaw, the memorabilia collector who originally owned the footwear at the heart of the beloved 1939 musical. Shaw had loaned the shoes in 2005 to the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids. That summer, someone smashed through a display case and stole the slippers. Their whereabouts remained a mystery until the FBI recovered them in 2018. Displayed at the auction house's London site, the slippers are expected to fetch $3 million and up.
Listen, The Wizard of Oz is universally known. I've taken these slippers everywhere. I've taken them to Tokyo, I've taken them to New York, now London, and people immediately know what they are. When you look at red shoes and you see sequins, you think of The Wizard of Oz, and it means a lot to people emotionally. When they're sitting down and watching the movie, it sometimes brings back memories of their parents or their grandmothers and doing all of that. So there's a lot of emotion to the slippers as well.
How we keep you in repair.
And with that, we call a wrap to World DNA. Do stay tuned. The news and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching WION The World is One. Stay tuned.
On Wings, we tell you our recommendations for destinations that have visas for digital nomads. We also explore concert tourism in India and how it's evolving. Thanksgiving was celebrated on Thursday this week. We tell you what it's all about and showcase some beautiful Christmas markets that have just opened up in various places. Only on WION, World is One.
This week on World at War. Russia threatens to bomb the decision-making centers in the Ukrainian capital, even as Kiev grapples with low morale, with tens of thousands of its soldiers deserting their positions, while Joe Biden continues to pump in more long-range missiles and munitions into the Ukraine war. The Lebanese people slowly begin to trickle back to pick up the pieces of their destroyed homes in the devastated towns and villages due to the Israeli bombardment, with a hope to build back better, with no certainty about how long the tenuous ceasefire will last. More than 200 rebels, soldiers and civilians have been killed in Syria as the anti-Assad rebel faction Hayat Tahrir al-Sham stages a lightning offensive and manages to enter into Aleppo, Syria's second largest city, while the Syrian and the Russian warplanes bombed the rebel positions. And the Colombian authorities captured the world's biggest haul of cocaine that the narco gangs were trying to transport across the new Pacific Highway all the way to Australia, using crude submarines to evade the law enforcement agencies. We take you to the heart of the world's biggest war zones and answer the why question behind every smoldering conflict. World at War, at these times, only on WION.
Will Namibia be the next country in Southern Africa to kick out a political party in power since independence? Namibians ponder over that dilemma as they gear up for the general elections. Ugandan opposition figure Kizza Besigye appears in a military court in Uganda days after he was reported missing during a book launch in Kenya. His wife fears he will not get justice in the military court. And in Cape Town, it's a baboon fiesta. Hundreds of Chakma baboons roam Cape Town's seaside village of Simonstown, creating a nuisance. That's this week on Wild of Africa, at these times on WION. Wild is one.
Thanksgiving is the easiest meal to make.
The Thanksgiving weekend puts everyone in a holiday mood, and we get you a list of movies to binge watch.
Hi, this is Jessel Tank, and you're watching me on WION.
Meet Jessel Tank, the Real Housewife of New York City, and know all about Hollywood stars and their journey to sobriety. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION E-Club.
I think this Beyond Business Masters is a actually great show for two reasons. One, usually we are able to not talk about what goes on in the background of the companies as they were built over the last 10-15 years. And secondly, a lot of people at some point in their life, maybe thinking about whether they want to be in a job or they want to start their own companies. And it just gives them a perspective of some of the challenges that they may see as they take the decision.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.